I can't.
Welcome to Dental Unscripted, where Mike Dinzio and Paula Quinn break down the practice ownership journey, one episode at a time. Starting up, buying, and running a successful dental practice.
What up, guys? Another episode of Dental Unscripted. I'm Mike Dinzio. We also got a few other folks in the house today. So Paula, of course, the newest co-host to the program. What's up, Paula?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, so here we go. So today is all about, so before we introduce Stefani and what she does to the team, today is all about accounts receivables, front office, common pitfalls. We're going to get into all kinds of stuff, but little housekeeping, folks. If you're watching this on Startup Unscripted or Dental Acquisition Unscripted, please get over to Dental Unscripted. We've merged the two in, and it's one program. So just trying to get you guys to jump over so that we can not manage three programs but one. So please do that. But without further ado, let's get Paula. Paula, can you please introduce our special guest and one of our favorites at Next Level? Who else is on the program today?
Well, when I don't know if she loves my intros, but I'll intro her now.
Oh no,
my intro with her is about the same as it is with mine. I always just say, Stefani's everything front office. She leads our credentialing team, our remote billing team. She's a front office coach with over 15 years experience, guru in all dental softwares, pretty much. I mean, the cloud's up and coming. So, she's getting used to those and learning those day by day. But overall, pretty much anything we need an expert regarding the front office, it's who we call in. So it's funny, anything you want to add to your experience? I know it's much more than that, but
No, I think you got it all in one quick swipe.
Yeah, so Stefani's super important. As Paula said, she touches pretty much every single one of our clients in a pretty big way. As Paula and I, when we started the company, we realized that we thought we knew front office, and we definitely did not know front office. So Stefani's filled that huge hole within the organization. So anybody that needs front office help or anything, Stefani's going to be the lady to handle that. But with today,
well, wait, I could get some hate mail over this, but I do always let everybody know. I pretty much kidnapped her from her last position. She, I joke, but it's all serious.
Wait, you did or not? I did.
Well, not you take the fall, but I actually did it. All joking aside, it's no secret that I owned a dental practice and I'm a hygienist. So, I don't know a lot about the front. Still to this day, I play one on TV. And I was forced to do a lot up front. And, a couple times, I went through a couple front offices because I bought in COVID, tough time for a lot of people. Everyone can relate to that who owned during COVID. And I noticed I had a big glass window and I could sit there and stare at my front office person when I had time in between patients or whatever. And I would see them with the EOBs and I'd pop open the schedule and I'm like, that's weird because we got a hole this afternoon. Tomorrow's pretty much empty. Like, isn't there more important things to be doing? And so I looked to, outsource that. And I had like a gal I knew and then another. And so I went through a couple of those and then I switched to this company that Stefani worked at. went through a few in there. And, Stefani always jokes I was pretty mean to her at first, but I was pretty jaded by the activity that happened with my accounts receivable it was already a train wreck when I purchased. Anyone who's purchased an acquisition will also understand that. And when she came along, after she put up with me for a while, we developed a great relationship, I think. And she really, it was spotless. Those AR buckets, which we'll talk about here in a minute, were spot on. And I never really actually gave that another thought after that, besides my front office collecting over the counter. And so when I was leaving on my way out, when I sold my practice, she could probably tell the story better than you, but I'm essentially like poking at her, asking her questions. And then finally it was like, hey, you want to check us out and come with us. And that was the end of the story.
I don't know if was this episode how to steal employees from other companies, or because I know
I didn't steal it from another. It wasn't from another dental practice for all you dentists watching.
They're like, wait, this is their whole game plan is be coaches and steal their best employees. That's funny.
No. Really the purpose of that story was just to say, not all billers are created equal. And we'll get into, why the front office probably shouldn't be doing it. There's more than one reason, unless, I don't know. There are some exceptions to everything. So,
yeah, let's get into it. So, I think we're going to cover a lot of topics today. In my mind, like I'm thinking about a dentist that or a practice owner that maybe you're an associate. I've actually been talking to some associates lately that have been really disappointed because they get paid on collections. So any associate out there that is like, gosh, they don't collect anything up front, I don't get paid on that, right? So even associates, doesn't have to be practice owners, could potentially keep their ears open on this episode. But I'm just thinking, like, how would a practice owner really identify if their ARs are a problem, right? Because I feel like they kind of are in the back doing what they do. Maybe they're wondering why their ARs are so big, and write-offs happen. And
yeah, I was gonna say adjusted production would be just as bad, because if we'll get into treatment plans and all that, but either way, if you're an associate and the ARs are a mess, it doesn't matter how you get paid, it's gonna suck.
So how would a dentist really or practice anybody that's interested, how would you really even attack to identify, like, if your ARs are out of control?
Yeah, I would start with identify. Like, how do you even know, Stefani? Like,
well, I think the number one would be you feel it, right? You're stretching, you're almost not making payroll, right? You're foregoing on getting updated equipment because the money's just not there. So number one, it's just feeling it. But I think if you sit back before you start feeling the pain, just to get a pulse, right? Where am I at? Am I on the, that fine line between, I'm great until I'm not great? I think you have to see what's out there and who has the liability. Is it my patients? Is it my, is it the insurance company? Because if we're collecting at the time of service, we got our estimates pretty accurate. Really, the liability then should fall on the insurance company. And so we really tell our offices it's around that 30-day mark, right? Insurance companies have to adhere to certain standards of processing claims within, 30 days. So anything after 30 days should start having some question marks, right? Why am I not getting paid? What's going on with this claim? So we, tell our providers, what's that number look like? How many claims are in these buckets? Because ideally, no more than 30% should be over 30 days aging.
30%, no more than 30%.
That's an average office.
Claims.
30% of outstanding claims should.
So in the can you break it down even more? Is there the third, the over 30, the over 60, and the over 90?
Because you're talking about claims, right? So
yeah, well, I think sometimes when it goes to 90s, it goes to die, right? Like it really should be minimal. It really does. It's like
don't break our
claims.
listeners' hearts. It goes to 90, it's dead.
No, but I mean, at that point, we could be hitting timely filing, especially for these federal or Medicaid claims. I mean, it's at a point where then you're going to have to eat the bullet, and it's just you can't collect it. But if
it's over 90, like no one obviously paid attention then when it got over 30 and then over 60. And then what about like I don't know it as well as you. What about, it wouldn't even matter a secondary claim, right? It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter because the claim is fresh, right? And so it's just talking about how long this balance is taking to age. So secondary claims, it's still a liability, but also if our practice management software isn't telling us that there's a liability on the insurance, it's going to show up in your patient AR, right? But overall, pulling that report to see how much is in the insurance's hand and how much is it my patient's, right? Because with patients, it's more of my statement protocol, right? I'm not billing these patients after insurance pays. I didn't collect at the time of service. I mean, it's harder, I feel, to collect patient AR than it is insurance.
Well, I was actually just going to go there because when we're looking at acquisitions, I had a conversation with an attorney just more recently. And I said, why don't we value the claims at a higher value than the patient portion? Because right now, for those that went through an acquisition or considering it, and that's not this episode, but we just kind of give the buckets the same value. And the truth is if it's claims under 90, hell, let's pay 98% of it, right? If it's patient
under
let's not get crazy. Follows like let's not get crazy. But like if it's patients, it becomes a different story because now you're the new owner and you got to have these weird conversations with your patients about statements that haven't gone out. So let's get to statements here later on, maybe some pitfalls, but just simply identify. I think you gave us some good percentages. It's 30% of your claims should
less than 30% should be
less than 30.
Yeah. Okay. So you want your 0 to 30 to be the bulk of your claims, right? That are outstanding. So 70% or more should be in the 0 to 30.
Now, what about both? Like, I think you always coach our clients on percentages per bucket. Forget claims, forget patient, just in general. What are those? If a doctor pulled up their AR and saw 30, 60, 90, or the aging, and they divide it by the total, what are those percentages?
Yeah. So, I mean, anything 90 and over, we look for less than 7%, right? 7%. I mean, anything after that, like I said, it's going to die. It's really, really hard. But then we're looking at that 60 to 90. And usually, that's where it's our last ditch attempt to even get something paid. And so we're looking around 13%, right? And then 10%. Yeah, because that's like going into appeals, right? We give that time. And then, doing the math, it's 10% for 30 to 60.
Cool. Perfect. It was funny. I just did an analysis the other day, Paula, and the percentages per bucket was in line, but the total amounts were, in my mind, massive for the size of the practice. So, Paula, don't you have a general rule on how much your total AR should be of the practice? Like, if I just looked at total ARs,
you're asking me? Why?
Yeah. Funny. I think you always used to say 1 month's worth of.
Well, that's in the 0 to 30. That's 0 to 30, 1 month. In the whole ARs,
all ARs,
0 to 30 should be 1 month's production. Because if you produced 100 this month, you would have 100 between patient and insurance. It shouldn't be any more than that. I'm not saying that.
So this practice did 500,000 in collections last year, and it had 250,000 in ARs. So that's half of a year sitting in ARs. Do you see what I'm saying? So if I'm at 500,000, I divided it by 12. You technically should only have about 50 grand sitting in AR total. That's it. and they had 250. So it's not just percent, but it's also the whole amount, the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
Let's get off how to identify. I mean, if it's just messy, it's messy. But if anything, I took away, don't just look at total ARs, look at claims and patient, and look at your percentages per bucket and go from there.
And I think the key, one of the things we coach on is something just looking at daily, daily, weekly, monthly. When we get an office, Bonnie can tell you better than I, it's a hot mess. Even the best of the front office people that are super comfortable, it's still getting a lot of feedback.
Well, yeah. And especially when you're like, hey, my office collects 100%, right? Yeah, that's great. You're collecting what you're producing, but it should be well over 100% with the AR that you have, right? That means that we're not actively working on collecting that sitting AR. Otherwise, it would be well over 100%. So we're collecting what we're producing and tackling the AR.
Yeah. Well, to Paula's point then, okay, so now we've identified if the ARs are a mess or not a mess. That now it's like what reports should we pull and how often should we pull those? So if you're a business owner, Paul or Stefani, are you like coaching which reports to pull daily and which ones to pull monthly? Like, how would you approach that?
I mean, I am a weekly kind of person because I map out my time management in the front office of what jobs, duties do we have and how can I tackle them within the week, right? Because then I'm actively working every single week on this same goal, right? To decrease my AR. So weekly, I'm looking at my credits. Credits are really important to look at in a dental practice because it's giving you a false security blanket. It's mask. Every dollar you have in credit is a dollar somebody owes you. So, you could be over collecting on one patient and under collecting on one, and you're not feeling it, right? So it masks it. So I want to get a pulse on my credits because most of the time, Paula can attest to it, they're not even real. It's inaccurate adjustments. It's giving professional discounts where we didn't need to, courtesy here, so it's getting a pulse on your credits. I think the other report.
Can I say that just a little bit different? I like where you're heading with this. Can I just say offset or mask offset? So kind of the same thing, right? So if I just want to say it in dummy style, my style. So if I had $5 of ARs and I had $1 of credit, my ARs are going to show 4.
Right.
And so it's buried in there. And so really your ARs are bigger if you have credits because they're offsetting.
Correct.
That's what you mean by math. Okay. Gotcha.
Right. So then, weekly, I'm looking at what claims now entered the, 30-day and over bucket, right? Because if everything worked out well, I should have gotten my claim processed and paid within 30 days, even earlier if you're enrolled in EFTs. Sometimes we give grace to offices because we're dealing with mail and, mail stinks. USPS is like snail mail. But at that 30-day, I should have some kind of pulse on what's going on. Why isn't it here? Is it processed? Great. Did it get paid? Is the check on the way? Right? Because otherwise, that portion's going to be small. Right? Mm-hmm. Most of the time, our claims do get paid on a regular basis without any problems. But there are problems, right? Insurance companies make it difficult to get paid. It's just what is happening. So if we're not strong on the claims going out, we've got to be strong on trying to get the claims back in, right? Mm-hmm. So getting a pulse the 30 days and over, documenting, touching it, and being intentional, right? Next, I'm going to look at when's the last time I'm billing patients. If we're moving on to the side of patient AR, when's the last time I billed these patients? I should be able to pull in my practice management software to see the last time statements were sent. Is my team on top of this? Do we have new balances, right? Do they need statements? So those are the reports I'm looking at weekly. On a monthly basis, I'm looking at the overall production, right? What did we produce versus what did we collect? What's our collection rate looking like? If we are just an office that has AR, my expectation is that it's over 100%. We're collecting what we're producing in addition to collecting past due AR. It's constantly being worked on.
Wait,
Now,
Stefani. So I see a lot of reports because Paula and I do a lot of acquisitions, and then they land on your plate, and you got to fix them all up on the front end,
right.
on the collections they are, but on the front end, when I pull these reports, like I very rarely see 100% collections, and I'm wondering how much of that is poor collections, or is it the whole adjustment problem?
So it's
Does
different.
that make sense what I
Yeah,
mean?
it is. It's different in different softwares. And I guess you have to take that with a grain of salt. You know, if you have indentrix, I'll give you the example. If we're not paying attention to what adjustments are decreasing production and if they're applied on collections, what it's doing, it's giving us a false sense of a transaction that occurred. Right? Instead of collecting $5, I wrote off $5. Still got me to zero, but in the reporting, it's showing that I collected it, right? Because it's affecting my collection numbers. So, you know, in Dentrix specifically, but in, you know, let's just even give you the open dental, right? If you don't have everything labeled correctly, right, we can't maneuver through these the difference between if it was on collections or not.
Yeah,
So
because
yeah,
I see. I mean, Paula, when you see an office that, well, actually, when you owned and you pulled your adjustment reports, so I'm wondering what your adjustments were when you bought the practice, and then I'm wondering what they looked like by the time you sold it.
Yeah.
And everything that went into fixing that. I mean, that's like a 12 episode.
Not really. I mean, I feel like it's one of the first things Stefani and I tackle in an office.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pretend like because we are partners. Pretend like I'm doing it too. But essentially, it is one of the things we look at whenever we see over a couple $1,000s of adjustments. We then quickly realize that the way they're documenting, you know, and what is up with my thing? I'm sorry, guys. It's weird. I have to figure that out. Is it me?
yeah, I don't hear it.
So you guys can't hear the feedback?
No.
Oh, perfect then. Okay, cool. I don't care then. I thought that's everyone's listening to this stuff that's coming back at me. You know, I stole this from Stefani and I like to be the one to claim it, but adjustments should be an exception and not the rule. And basically what we're saying is every adjustment should tell a story. Now you can have an in-house membership plan, but even we teach you how to adjust that appropriately. But really, and what I mean by that is like if you're doing bite wings too soon and you didn't let the patient know, you're going to have to adjust them off. The practice has to eat it. Well, we want to know that because that means there's an insurance verification problem. You know what I mean? So it tells a story of like, was it our mess up as a dental practice? Or, you know, do we have to tighten up our insurance verification process? Are we just not entering things appropriately? So when you start seeing those adjustments, you're able to like say, okay, we got to tighten up whatever system.
And I
But
think
it's
it
one
gives
of the
you a
things,
false sense of real numbers, right? If
yeah.
you're depending on adjustments, you think you're scheduling to goal, and here you are, you know, 30 days later after the insurance, you know, pays, and here that day didn't even pan out how you thought it was. It's really difficult, I can imagine.
So it's understanding the adjustments and then allocating them to the right bucket. We never want, you know, an office to overpay or underpay an associate. We don't, like Stefani said, we don't want them to feel like they're scheduling to go when they're not. So we want it to be real money. You know, I get doctors all the time, you know, you go to a seminar, you do something and yeah, I do, you know, $2 million. And then you get in their software and it's 1.2, you know, it's it's not real money. I mean, yay, 1.2 is still amazing, but no, it was not 2 million. So I think, you know, really the answer to your question is yes, it was a shit show when I bought it. It was cleaned up, you know, thanks to Stefani. And it is now one of the first things we look at when we, you know, see all these adjustments. We want to make sure that, you know, they're doing that appropriately. At the end of the day, with the statement protocol, with the adjustments, with all, it affects the patient. And then the patient's mad, even though they owe it, they're mad, and then they leave the practice. Stefani always says patients don't typically leave a practice because the dentist, the assistant, or the hygienist. Not typically. I mean, it can happen. It's usually the front office, and it's due to those errors, estimating inappropriately, sending a statement 3 months after it's all over, forgetting to put something on a treatment plan. That's when they blow up. So
yeah, you guys are just hitting all of this. I mean, I'm sitting back wondering, like, someone's driving their car right now and they're like, what the hell? There's all these things going on at the front. And that's so true, isn't it? That you go up at the front desk and you're like, what does Nancy Joe do all day? But she's so busy, but I don't know really what she is doing. This is exactly what she's doing. She's got 100 trillion things going on, and it's challenging for her or him. And I guess that is really like a plug for remote services. And we're gonna get there here in this and on the next episode. So stay tuned on the next episode, and we're gonna, I think, publish these back to back. But before we get there, if we stay within the how to fix the front office as it is, it's almost like, okay, and we got clients that are like this, that they just want everything in house, and I can totally appreciate that. They just want it all in house. They feel like they're getting the best value. They think that there's going to be more control, or maybe they can do a perio chart for me and also bill, and they're getting more out of that employee. I can appreciate all that, but if you've already identified that stuff's not happening right, we already talked about in the beginning of this episode, what makes you think that, like, this person's a superwoman? Like, she's just not, and she needs help. And so this is kind of the way of the future of dentistry, I think, is getting a lot of services out of the office. And anyways, that's next episode, preview for next episode. But let's stay within the how do we fix Nancy Joe in the office on some basic stuff. What are some common pitfalls? And I realized the feedback's coming from Stefani. So when Stefani wants to talk, I'm going to unmute her. When I want to talk, I'll have to mute her. So Stefani, what are, like, you coach these girls every single day, and men. I can't be sexist on a podcast. Men and women doing the front office. What do you think, like, the most simple things that a listener, an owner can do? Start micromanaging, if that's a dirty word. What are some of those little things that they can do that immediately fix this AR situation? And I know we already touched on it, but maybe touch on it again before we close this episode out.
I think it's the preventative measures, right? It's the insurance verification, making sure it's active. We have the right insurance demographics, where it's going to. I think that's number one, right? Is it going to make it to where it needs to go? I think Paula would obviously agree with that.
You always say garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah. And I think my next one would be, don't send that claim until it's clean, right? You guys always talk about clean claims. What that means is if I don't have what I need, I'm not going to send it, because what's going to happen is I'm going to send it. The insurance company is going to ask for more or deny it. And now I've made more work for myself to appeal it, when I could have just waited until I had what I needed. So I would say keeping it simple is, verifying that it should be in the insurance hands, and then making sure when it's there, the insurance company has everything it needs.
Yeah, I love that. So I heard insurance verification. I heard
entry,
clean entry, garbage in, garbage out, clean insurance, and then don't force a claim. Just make it beautiful before you send it.
It doesn't have to go out the minute, it's the practice management software. You complete the appointment, and front office people think you have to shoot that claim out like bam. It's like, wait a minute, let everybody make sure the fluoride got in, the buildup got in, make sure it's posted to the right provider. did they actually finish their clinical notes to where they're good? Don't send it out until it's okay if it goes the next day. What you're gonna get it processed one day sooner? Like, it's not a big deal.
Exactly.
I would make your protocol next day anyway. Everyone's tired at the end of the day. Everyone's in a hurry in the middle of the day. They're just gonna shoot it out there, and it's gonna be missing stuff. And then the hygienist is gonna run up and say, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to attach the fluoride," and it's like,
oh Jesus,
claims out.
So Stefani, is that what front office people do? They feel the pressure of getting the claims out and rush it, and then they don't have a protocol to stock that claim. I know you have an infamous quote, but like, is that pretty common? I could see that being a thing where they feel like they're not doing their job by getting a claim out quick because they're afraid of the aging, but really that's their worst nightmare because it's going to get held up. I could see that being a thing.
I think it's just easy to cross off something off your list, right? And so as the front office, we are so trained to be reactionary, right? In our day-to-day functions, when we can just take a step back, sit, let everybody review everything, and then I can get it done because I can make it into a flow of a system, right? So I don't feel that way. But it's interesting to hear, I remember like, oh, I want to get this in. I want to get paid sooner. The insurance company coming back saying, we're not even going to process this until Thursday. You got a deadline till Thursday, right? Like, and here I am busting it. But one of my most annoying thing is not billing a 230, that additional PA, because the claim has already gone out with the initial PA, the 220. And here the doc's like, actually, we took a second one. Now I have to bill an additional PA code on a claim all by itself. It's going to get denied. I just made a ton of work for myself when I could have just waited.
So not to extend this episode a little further, but like, I think that's gold because the doctors are listening to this program, not front office. We're not at ADOM doing a live podcast today. We're sitting at our house and we're speaking to a bunch of dentists that are probably driving into their work. So what I heard was dentists, providers, hygienists included.
I don't know where you live, but it's 10:30 in the Pacific. And it's
all right. Well,
1:30 Eastern Standard.
When
I need to work right now, I'm worried about them.
When this gets published and people are listening to it on their way, slow down, pull a production report daily, and make sure nothing was missed. It sounds like dental assistants need to be part of this too, because they're the ones that take the x-rays. I don't know. You guys, I mean, like, clinical team needs to get their act together in the back.
I feel like you right now are opening up an entire different can of worms of
course, that's what I do.
The whole process. I mean, like, Stefani and I could go so deep into this, it would make your head spin. And I know you're not going to allow that. So just
chill out.
Yeah. It is, being an owner. Listen, there's a difference between micromanaging and being a smart business person. And I feel like, Stefani does things weekly because she blocks her time. And so as a front office, you're blocking time. As an owner, I feel like what I learned is having my eye on it every day because I don't even understand it. I'm not going to sit down at the end of the week and look at 5-day sheets, adjustments, payments. So if I can, between patients, do what I can control, right? Make sure all the stuff's in for the front office to process the claim, that second PA, what are all those things? I think looking to make sure the patient made their next appointment. I think making sure that the patient paid a copay. If I'm glancing at this all day long, that at the end of the day, I don't have to stay 2 hours after. I don't have to stress on Friday. I don't have to stress at the end of the month. I don't have to stress at the end of the year. Because let's face it, people start stressing in about October, November, they're not going to meet goal. Well, hello,
Yeah.
So I think there's little things you can do every day, every week, every month that you can feel really confident about with your front office. And what I love about what Stefani coaches is, I could be wrong on this and she can define it, but there's 3 or 4 things every day. Some of them can just be done in between patients that is going to save your financial status. I mean, it's the best way I can say it. Stefani?
I love that.
It is true. It's the prevention I really like to focus on, right? I'm prepared for this patient. I know what they need to pay, what they should have paid last time, balances. I know that they're eligible. I think prevention allows time to utilize the time in between patients, efficiently. So I do agree with Paula, checking your, everybody has a role to play in a practice. I depend on the doctors to have the right codes, the right surfaces, right, the right, a fee attached. They rely on me to send the claims correctly with the right documentation
And collect over the counter.
They expect me to post it back correctly, making sure that the patient's getting billed. So everybody has a role to play. And so one disruption in that can really just have an avalanche kind of effect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Well, with that being said, I'm going
Well,
to.
are we going to do pitfalls on the? I mean, we didn't really, or do we have?
I mean, I heard a lot of pitfalls in there.
Well, I mean, there are pitfalls. I just didn't know if we wanted to wrap them up or.
Yeah. Well, let's hit pitfalls on round 2. Stay. This kind of concludes part 1 of the billing and the AR conversation. We're going to pivot to pitfalls and potentially looking at remote services, outsourcing some of these services to help your front office. So what we really did on this episode is how to identify what are the things that you could do to fix it, what are the common pitfalls, cleaning all of this up, owning every single process daily, weekly, monthly. But if you're like, shit, I'm done, I can't do all of this, then a solution would be maybe it's time to outsource. So let's wrap this up, ladies. Stay on the line. We're going to keep this live, but let's close this one down. So hang tight.
Thanks for listening. Let us know how you like the show. Rate us on Apple and Spotify. Subscribe and follow for more. Welcome to Dental Unscripted. Where Mike Dinzio and Paula Quinn break down the practice ownership journey, one episode at a time. Starting up, buying, and running a successful dental practice.
All right. We're back. Round 2. Here we go. We are rolling right into the next part of this program. And it's, we just had a great episode, talked about a lot of the AR stuff that folks need to really be paying attention to, the health of the AR. But again, as a reminder, if you're just jumping into this episode, go back, watch the last episode that we just published, because we are literally rolling into a part 2. My name is Mike Dinzio. I'm one of the co-founders of Next Level. The other founder is the wonderful Paula Quinn. Hey, what's up, Paula? She just waved for us YouTubers.
Hey.
So today's special. We're doing a 2-part series on AR and all the amazingness. Paula, do you want to give a quick intro to Stefani so that we can keep our juices flowing on this process? But just real quick, Stefani Sandoval, for the folks that are just tuning into this episode.
Yeah, 15 plus years front office. She leads our front office coaching academy, credentialing, billing, all things front office. Couldn't run this place without her. So, I think you said it best the beginning of last episode. We thought we were amazing, didn't know what we were missing, and then once we brought Stefani in, it's like, how did we coach these front office?
we did it for so many years without Stefani. That's why a little plug on Next Level. I'll just take that opportunity right now, and I think a lot of consultants out there are just running a solo show, and I did, and Paula did. And it works. Like, I'm not cutting on other consultants.
Yeah, damn. I thought I was good.
I thought I was good too. And then and then we combine. I'm like, well, shit, we're real good now. And then 2 years into that, we're like, okay, there's a huge hole and it's at the front. And so Paula sniped Stefani out from under somebody else. And if you want to hear that story,
join us in the evening about 7 o'clock.
No, you just gave all the goods of the last episode. So if you want to hear that story in detail,
I didn't give the goods. I gave the highlights.
Yeah. So Stefani, welcome to the show. It's great.
It's
really great to have you. And maybe say a little something about Next Level and how we really do work as a team and your role within the organization.
Yeah, no, you guys said it, so well earlier, but yeah, it's all things front office. It's nice because we all can talk to each other about, hey, I'm seeing this problem, in the front, and I'm sure it's this is why you're having the problem in the back, right? Whether it's treatment, enrollment, right? And then, leading up to Mike, it's like, hey, I'm not making any money, right? So we all work together. But I always like to compare it to when we talk about job descriptions in the front. As a girl, we go to a hair salon. There's somebody who's great at color. There's somebody who's great at cuts, somebody who's great at facials. I wouldn't want to go to somebody who's great at facials to do my color, right? So everybody has a specific role because they're great at it. So,
Love that.
I think, when we talk about the front office specifically, is that, yeah, you can think you're great at everything, but maybe you're just mediocre at a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so
Jack of all trades, master of none, right? Jack of all trades, master of none. I love that stuff. I've never heard that before, but that's a good one. I'll use it. I'm not a girl, so I wouldn't know that one, but that's a good one.
What about me? I do my own facials and hair.
Paula is truly the jack of all trades. Well,
I colored my hair this morning. I mean, look at it.
Jeez, looks amazing. Alrighty.
Oh,
so let's just keep this rolling. We're a few minutes into Paula, the figurative drive to the office. You guys are just you're heading on the road, and this episode is really about how to help the front office. And I think you wanted to talk about some pitfalls before we jumped over to outsourcing. So ending on that note, where was your head at there with pitfalls before you might consider remote services? Did I?
Are you talking to me? Or
yeah. Last episode, you said you wanted to hit some pitfalls.
Well, what I actually wanted to say is, which is different because I want Stefani to talk about the actual pitfalls. But for me, being a dental practice owner prior, I mean, for me, it's like, why wait till the pitfalls? I feel like I want you guys who didn't do the last episode yet, I talked about having that glass window and watching my front office. And one of the things that I want.
I remember those stories, dude. You used to call me and be like, what is she doing? She's on YouTube watching TV. I'm like,
look at the schedule tomorrow. And then I was on Medento texting everyone. I'm thinking I'm paying this person, and here I am, like,
yeah.
So, but what I really wanted to say was, like, there, to me, and Stefani, being a front office for all those years, can piggyback off this or talk different about me. But for me, I want patient experience.
Mm-hmm.
I want availability for treatment plan delivery, no matter how small, whether it's the hygienist getting ready to do a periotherapy, a gingivitis therapy, hell, a sealant. I want my front office available. I want my front office available to answer phones, really greet people when they walk through the door, smile. If they have to, stand up, walk around. I want it to be, listen, people aren't loyal today. Patients aren't as loyal as they used to be. We used to have 2 dentists in an entire town. Now we have 50. We also have the all loved zennials,
Go ahead. Yeah.
the all loved zennials that, listen, I'm raising a couple of them. The loyalty, 0. You piss them off, they're gone, man. They'll write a bad Google review, bash your whole place, burn the place down, and then walk out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's for
and
me,
it has changed, right? Over the generations, stuff has just totally changed.
Yeah.
And it's how they purchase too.
Like me, I'm in my 50s. I'm gonna go because it's convenient, even if I'm kind of like, I'm gonna just keep going. Now I'm a hygienist in the dental field, so obviously I'm gonna be more picky. But I'm saying the average person.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I want my front office to be all accurate, amazing, friendly, available.
Love it.
This outsourcing, which we're going to get into a minute, should be done when it can be. So for me, why wait for the pitfalls? Get it out of there.
Yeah.
And let your front office have time to do the things that are going to matter to retain and keep patients. That's my take on it.
Let's be honest. I'll let Stefani jump in with her points too. I know. But let's be honest. That's why you.
Muted. We can't even hear her laugh.
Well, she's gonna. I know. That's why you went outsourced, and then that's also why we Next Level took on outsourcing. Both, because we were tired of hearing
and
our
even
clients
when we post, Michael, we see it every day.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we brought it in.
I learned the lesson for everybody else. So don't be my 23-year-old and have to wait till it hurts. Like, let me tell you, I'm wise and old.
What's your pitch on outsourced billing, Stefani? Why
are we going to talk about that? We're going to have the pitfalls first, right? I just went into why wait on the pitfalls.
What are the pitfalls?
I think that coming from a front office, right? And I say this, not everybody gets bonuses, not everybody gets incentives, but there's certain numbers that reflect how I do at a front office, right? How I am at my job. One of those is being production. I want to be working and building out my provider schedule. Right. And I can't do that if I have to go and argue with an insurance company because something's wrong with a claim and I didn't get paid for it. Right. I can't go and get my hygiene audited or get recare overdue, on my books because I'm dealing with all of the nuances that I already have on top of, a day-to-day interaction in a dental practice. So, Paul is talking about she wants to have somebody readily available, and coming from me, it's like, I want to be available, but I also have other things I need to make sure is that those schedules are confirmed for tomorrow, right? That we don't have no shows. So she wants something from me, right? And I want to do something for the better of the practice, but I can't because I'm weighted down by AR. Like I'm handling phone calls. Patients are upset about balances, yet I have to handle this irate patient when I have a brand new patient walking in. Like, that's the worst look, right?
So I'm going to come back to you then, Stefani. So what I heard, again, I never worked in a dental office my entire life. And so what I hear both of you saying is like everybody has their own perception. The hygienist has a perception of the front, the doctor has a perception, and of course the front office has their perception. So there's like all these perceptions, as in like a perception of what your job is and what's most important. The front office person thinks this is most important. The hygienist thinks this is most important. The doctor thinks this is most important. And the poor front office person is just doing the best she freaking can. And she doesn't know what really is the priority. I remember, so Paula, you would call me, and I loved Paula's setup because her office was literally right behind the front office. So there's Paula like watching like an eagle and everything, and I was like, that poor girl in front. Like Paula's literally eagle eyeing her all day and listening to her calls. But that's funny. But
then I'd hit my speaker and say, hey, what are you doing?
yes, exactly. So Stefani, like as you're coaching these gals and guys at the front, like how do you help them figure out what is the most important, the most priority thing?
Achilles.
Like,
I think first what we do with the next level is first we figure out what is everybody responsible for. And then we sit back and say, is this realistic that this one person does all of these things? And then Paula will then set it up to say, is there any of these things that can be done by somebody else? Whether it's a team member or can we outsource it? And that's where I think we're going to head into this, segue here is, is it cost effective to, outsource or to keep it in-house? But, it starts the conversation because I can say, yes, I can do it. But realistically, I'm not going to meet that expectation of what you want to get out of it. Right. And so we have to sit back and really think, is it too much?
I do feel bad for the front office team members that we coach because they're so loyal and dedicated and they don't want to disappoint. And they are smart enough to most of the time to handle it, to know bits and pieces of it all. To handle it is a whole different thing. And it's hard for them to admit they're one person or sometimes two, depending on the size of the practice. And it's just not conducive. It's just not the right choice. And we try to walk in with kid gloves because we don't want to insult them. They're every intention they have is amazing. They're there for the practice. They're there for the patients. They're there to make the everything work efficiently. But there is a point, we are pretty lucky in the back, even though if you talk to a hygienist, that's a whole nother segment. They're going to say, I'm always in my cubicle. I never get I don't have enough time. Listen, all you doctors out there. And if we happen to have front office and hygienists listening, I thought I was the bomb biggity. I almost said it.
And we've been on this podcast for 50 minutes. I've been waiting for somebody to do it.
I was the bomb biggity and I'm the heart of the practice and the money. I'm a producer and patients call to see me. But guess what? Sit 1 minute in that front office seat when the phone's ringing and people are walking in and somebody wants scheduled and you got to collect money and you got to figure out the stupid treatment plan. Like it is like the worst position in the whole office. There is a lot happening up there. So, it's okay. It's okay to outsource things if the doctor is willing. It's okay to, I can do this, but if you want me 100% capacity here, and here, it's going to better serve the patient's doctor and practice if we outsource this stuff. And that's a hard thing because every time we talk the front office, this is that, there's an excuse for everything, which I totally get because there is. But it's so hard for them to let go of that.
Well, look, like just our business, like Stefani, little transparency. It's every business. It's every business. It's with Abby, it's with Abby, our executive assistant. It's with Dan. It's with Stefani. A company throws a lot of stuff at their employees.
Small businesses, especially.
Yeah, and it starts off just enough, and then the owner's like, well, can you take on some more? And Stefani, you're like, of course I can take on some more. I love you guys. And then can you take on some more? Can you take on some more? And
do we really ask?
No, you don't. As owners, you don't. You just throw it at them, and then they don't want to disappoint, like Paula said, until it becomes a problem. And then the employee's like, well, look, you freaking jerk. Like, how am I supposed to do this? And then the owners are like, well, we didn't know. You just kept saying yes. And Stefani, you were there at Next Level. I bet you were there at a dental office too. And at some point, someone's got to say, I need help. And for the patients, for the
Well, I think what
business.
happens is like we all then can say, this is a priority to me. You guys hire somebody to do something, not necessarily because you don't know how to do it, but most of the time doctors don't know how to do it themselves. So what you may think is just an easy task is maybe a little bit gruesome, right? And it takes a lot of time. But the difficult part is it goes back to is like, well, what's the priority? Because everything seems urgent that's being thrown at me. So either I need it very clear as scrap what you're doing.
Wait, are we still talking about dental front office?
Yeah.
Bonnie?
Scrap what you're doing. So like Paul was saying, it's like, hey, I'm trying to get this claim paid. And here the doc's like, how come my schedule's not full tomorrow? Well, which one's my priority? Like, is it getting you money or is it, getting your schedule full for you to make money? Like either way, it's about money, right? But where's the priority? So I think it's really hard as a front office when I think I'm doing my job and here, you're saying this isn't a big deal, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well then I'm always going to think that handling these outstanding claims aren't a big deal. And this is now where I get myself into trouble.
Love it.
And I think the thing, it just hit me. And I because we get in offices all the time and no statements are sent for months on end. And you're like, how hard is it to push a button and send a statement out? But I think part of the problem is these front office people, team members are probably thinking, well, I got to audit this because I don't want this to just go to someone if it was our mistake or is it. So then they're like putting it on hold, trying to find that time to do that. I don't know.
And then next thing you know,
you guys hear that?
Oh yeah. Coda for the audience, eventually Coda will be the star at some point. But when he feels Paula getting all jacked up, like Paula's energy starts rising, Coda starts chiming in. So folks, when so you got to jump. See, so when you go to onto YouTube, you can see Paula getting real amped and hear it from Coda. I think that
he's just backing me. He's backing me.
He's just backing up. He's like, you get it, girl. You get it. Yeah, you're hype boy. I love it. No, I don't think front office folks are going to ever raise their hand and say, I need help. Can you please outsource some stuff? They won't. They'll either say, I need some help up front. And by the way, let me have that part of the program. Okay, so let's talk money real quick. So someone has the safety to go to their employer and say, I need help. That's already hard. But it's almost like when you decide you want to fire someone, it's like so late. It's the same thing. When someone finally says they need help, dude, who the hell knows what it took to get to that
and
part.
I don't think that it's necessarily always comes out in the form of I need help. It's I want more money. I have a lot of this stuff is a lot of work. I think
That's
you hear it in two different ways.
That's
right?
true. That's true. Because if
That's
you say that's great because actually there's only so many hours in the day. So if someone's asking for more money, you're not going to get more capacity. So now your wages are just going up and it's even more of a shit show because that girl can't do it all. So if she's saying she wants a raise because she's doing all this stuff, or she's saying she wants help, that might be the first flag of saying, hey, I got to look at this. And then the question is do I hire a whole nother person, full-time, benefits, payroll tax, anxiety attacks? They can't come into work today because they have anxiety.
Personality, behavior, style.
A personality, a behavior, a culture, potential shift. Again, I'll say it again. Anxiety. I always say that. I can't come into work. I've got anxiety today. Like you get
Gen Z.
Gen Zer. You can't.
I only make fun of them because I have two of them.
I know. We all do. We all have anxiety. But the point is like, do you want that, or do you potentially look at outside services? And we actually have a webinar coming up here pretty soon about AI and outside services and all that stuff. But like, this is a real thing that I think a lot of doctors are thinking. Consider, what if you could pay an employee as a 1099, no payroll tax, as a 1099, and only pay them on their performance. So if their performance suck, you don't have to pay them. If they perform, you pay them. And it's just performance. Like, man, that's sweet. And they have to show up or they're going to get fired. They can't have anxiety. You know, they don't get paid unless they do their job. That's the perfect quote unquote employee. And that is outside services. So what are some of those outside services? And let's list them real quick. And then let's pivot to billing, because I think that's what we really want to talk about. So Paula, what are the outside services you would consider?
All outside services?
Well, I think there's only so many you can do up front.
You know, there's people who outsource recare and reactivation, unscheduled treatment. There's outsourcing insurance verification and entry. There's
you're going so fast. I can't even write this down. So wait, you hit some good ones.
Well, because I don't. I mean, we're not. That's something I recommend, but don't do. So, your reactivation and recare. So getting patients engaged back in the practice, unscheduled treatment in general, which usually does not go hand in hand. There's not a lot out there that does unscheduled treatment. There's people who, when the phones roll over, answer after hours. So we've got anywhere from AI to live people who can do something like that. Insurance verification and entry, and then outsourced billing, I think, are probably the main ones. Personally, I feel, it depends on what stage you are in your dental journey of probably what's most important. But I do think outsourcing billing is probably a number one priority. I think it's someone who it's all they do, so they're an expert. I think that they're not distracted when they're in your office. They're in your office, and I mean remotely. They're paying attention to the detail. What's going out? What's coming back in? I just don't think a front office can physically and mentally give it the time and attention that someone who's dedicated to your office, that's not distracted by all the other whirlwinds, can do. Just physically cannot do.
Why do you think billing's the easiest to probably incorporate? I mean, I
didn't say the easiest. I told you,
but it is probably the first one that people think of first.
But I told you the last episode, I had some really bad billers, so it can be as detrimental. So you've got to know what's happening. However, why is it the easiest? You don't have to know the patient intimately. Outsourcing reactivation and unscheduled treatment, it's if the hygienist or someone in the practice can, patient AR, all of that, you really need someone to know your patients intimately, or it can be hit or miss. Billing, we're not talking to patients. We're looking at numbers. We're looking at attachments. We're looking at all of that documentation. And that's, that would be the easiest to so they're not touching your patients and damaging anything.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. I also think it has probably the highest impact, right? Like cost per impact. So
we're paid on a percentage of, so it's a win-win situation. There's no win-lose. It's all 100% a percent of, where when you outsource phone calls, there's usually a startup fee and a flat fee and a per, and then there's all these things that it's like, where ours is a direct reflection on our Stefani, our performance.
Yeah. No, Stefani, I was actually going to kick this over to you.
Unmute yourself, Stefani.
No, well, we're going to Stefani next. Like, how does it even work? Like for anybody, that is considering something like this, like what does that first step look like? Because I would have to imagine, because I get that sales call every once in a while. I was like, well, how would I even do this? Like you're going to do my billing? Like, it's kind of like a concept that's just really hard to incorporate in their mind. So walk us through kind of what a third-party biller kind of does with you to get you onboarded. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, our goal is to pretend like we're in the practice, right? Like we're not a body, right? But we want to work for your money as hard as you would want any team member. You know, I'm going to say luckily, we get to do just one thing, and it's just billing. We don't have to be worried about the disruptions that come with a, hey, you know, Cindy's busy, can you help her, right? We're strictly billing. So what we do is we get access to your computer, just like we were sitting right in front of it. We have portal logins. We make sure that, you know, everybody's on the same page with who's doing what, right? And our first thing is like, yeah, we're going to deal with the day-to-day, you know, insurance payments coming in. We'll handle the appeals as they come in. But on the side, we're also now diving into your old stuff, right? We're working at those oldest claims, and we have a game plan to tackle it, right? And to be as efficient as possible, touching it one time, right? Our billers are resolution driven. They don't want to have to keep working harder and working on these insurance claims. They want to get them cleaned up, right? And so they can be intentional when they touch it. So we make sure that transparency is very clear between the biller and the office. So you know what we're working on, you know the status of whatever claim it is. If there's a discrepancy in the posting, we let you know. I think on the other hand, you know, reporting back. So some of these docs don't look at their reportings. They're just like, meh, whatever.
We talked about that in the last episode.
Yeah, we let you know your patient AR hasn't moved at all in a month. That's something that should be alarming, right? We're seeing trends. You know, I have an office in Arizona. There's 6 claims that don't have perio charting that we've been asking for, right? Because we're not sending it unless we have it. But we can start taking that as a teaching moment for these offices to better, right? Better systems. So I think overall, you know, if I had to bundle it in, how do we start? We act like we're there, right? It's just implementing a few systems on our end to make sure that we can communicate outside of your dental practice.
One thing I'd add to that, and Shivani, tell me if I'm wrong, they don't really need to know. We onboard and communicate with the practice in the beginning to make them feel good, but Stefani and her billers, they don't really need an intro to anything. They can numbers tell a story, and they can jump right in there and they know exactly what's going on. They don't need high direction. It's very
Yeah, I don't
they
need
know
a
what to
backlog
do.
of what you thought you were doing, or this one needs an appeal. It's because what we see is that time that says, oh, they needed this. But why then? Because us saying, well, why didn't you send it, doesn't really help. We're going to make sure that you asked all the right questions. We know exactly what needs to happen to get this done. But we want to work with the team. Like, it's not just you outsource it, you don't have to think about it, because we are in everyday communications with the front office team of, hey, this insurance termed, right? We need to get this claim resubmitted. What's going on? You have the wrong date of birth, right? And if what it takes on the other end, I believe, is getting that information from your biller and doing something with it. I think that's really where you can get exceptional service, right? Because we're going to do what we do to everybody. Where it makes it exceptional is what your offices choose to use that information and do, you know, make those actions.
Agreed. You're on mute.
You're
Indy.
unmuted.
So crap. I had a conversation with a client just the other day, and it was a front office gal, and good for her for having the open mind of third party billing. But like in her mind, the office was so unique that they do certain things that are different. And she just couldn't get her head around, well, how would someone remote in and know this stuff? Right. And so like, I think that we need to kind of talk about, like, any remote bill service should have the ability. I mean that the job isn't as complex, I think, as the front office people have it in their head. Like, it's so personal to my office. We're talking about insurance claims. Now, patient portion, that might be a little different conversation. Again, someone that's never worked in an office, walk me through that. Like, is it really a personal thing, or is it really more of this is a job we got to do?
Yeah, it's just a job. I think what happens is when we start getting the the pushback, it's because we're going to discover a lot of things, right? And so if the office is the one making the mistake, they're going to be the one to cover it up, right? So when you have just a non-biased party going in there, doing the billing, saying, hey, patient portion is this, why didn't we write it off? Because it shouldn't be written off. Like it is the patient's responsibility. But you maybe didn't quote them accurately. So now we run into this issue of, I'm just going to cover this up, right? So you have the same person making the mistake, seeing the mistake, and having the ability to cover it up. So go ahead, Paul. I know that you're about to jump in on that.
Well, okay, what I was going to say, and this is it, just in a little bit of defense, is I'm sure there are people who intentionally cover it up, but I also think they think, oh, well, we didn't quote them for this fluoride, so it's our office responsibility to write it off. So part of it is, yes, self-preservation, but I do think some of it's just they actually don't know. This
but
is
it goes to documenting it correctly. Like if you want to adjust it off, we're not going to hide it in the insurance write-off. So you guys are going to accurately be able to see these issues because it's not the rule, right?
And technically, they should go to the doc and say, we did not, with all transparency, I did not tell this patient about the buildup. The buildup happened. How would you like me to handle this? Right. Most docs are probably going to say, well, can you have a conversation and save it? But the office is thinking, oh, we didn't quote them. Let's just write it off. And office owners never know that. And so, yes, I do think, I don't even know if it's 50-50, probably 70-30. There is a small percentage that probably write it off because they're like, well, shit, I'm getting my butt chewed and I messed up. But I think a lot of them think, well, what am I supposed to do? We didn't quote it. They're not even taking the responsibility. They're just saying, well, it didn't get quoted, so the office has to eat it. We're small business owners. That's a lot of money, a lot of money. Buildups add up over time. Fluoride adds up over time. Downgrading adds up over time. Missing tooth claws adds up over time. It's a lot of money that dentists don't even know that just gets written off.
If anything, it brings a conversation to what Paul is saying, right? Is that we are by the books when it comes to posting and billing. So if you want to do anything outside of that, right? If a non-covered service, you can charge your UCR, right? And so there's, depending on the state and the contracts, but like we're going to make that match it. So if you don't want it, that's fine. You can get rid of it. But it has the conversation of, well, maybe I would want to do this, right? Working smarter and not harder for your own money, but you wouldn't know otherwise, right? Because empathy is a great thing that front office have. It's what makes them so special and so unique. But when you put that, when it comes to playing with, dealing with your money, it's really hard to have them have the business mind first, and I think you need that for a strong biller. You need to have that business mind first. And I think it's impossible, to have that and being in the front every day.
Yeah, it's tough. It's just another reason why ownership is challenging. And I think like if there's anything that you take away from any of these podcasts, any Facebook threads, wherever you're getting your information, it's really like there's so many things to manage and look through and stay on top of. And ARs in front is just so important. Paula always said, I'll end it on this. It's like the hygiene is the engine of a practice, and it is.
Is it the heart?
But okay. but to me, the front office is the engine, right? And so, I mean, no one's got anything to do back there if it's not for the front. And if there's nothing to do back there, then there's nothing to collect. And there's just so many things that a practice can struggle. You could have the best practitioners, the best hygienists, the best customer service waiting for patients. But if the front office doesn't schedule and collect, you're screwed. So I guess on that note, I think we communicated what outside services can make a difference in your practice. I think billing's a good one to consider. And yeah, I guess on that note, ladies, any final notes before I shut this bad boy down?
No, well, yeah, I say no, and then I say yeah. Just one last thing would be one thing that we encourage, as team members, as next level, as coaches, is I think the more educated as a practice owner that you can make yourself, the better off you'll be. I think the days of just, I don't know that, I don't want to, like, that's their department, is just over, because for so long dental was treated as a service industry, and it really is a business. It's a business. We're not just healthcare providers. We have to run a business. And I think the more the more as Stefani said 30 times, are preventative, you're going to be okay. No one's perfect, but I think you're going to be okay. So just paying attention would be my advice.
I love it. All right. Ladies, this was a great episode. You guys,
super long. Sorry.
Yeah.
super long, but worthwhile. And I think our folks got a lot out of it. So without further ado, I guess I'll see you on a coaching call somewhere later today. Talk to you two later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Let us know how you like the show. Rate us on Apple and Spotify. Subscribe and follow for more.